Hello and welcome to a new Tech Talk. My name is Johan Sanneblad, and for the past 15 years I have worked as a consultant, creating over 50 innovation projects for over 30 different companies, such as Lego, Volvo Cars and Yamaha. In this talk I will present 5 lessons I have learned over the years that will help you succeed with selling and delivering innovation projects. The lessons are equally valuable if you are a consultancy company that wants to develop innovation projects for other companies, or if you're a company with its own internal innovation group. To exemplify, I will present 7 different projects where most of them probably would have been classified as kamikaze projects by other consultancy companies. With this, I mean that to get the contract signed, we had to promise that we would deliver something unique and fantastic to the client, often at a maximum cost and a fixed date. In all these 7 projects, we had no clue whatsoever what the end result would look like, other than a few input parameters from the customer. These parameters could be anything like we want something fun, we want a unique restaurant experience, or we want a digital service for our hammers. The reason I picked these 7 projects is that they would have been impossible to deliver without considering the 5 lessons I will present later. However, if you're not interested in the projects and want to jump straight into the lessons learned, I have included links you can click on below in the description. Before I begin, I also briefly want to clarify what I mean with innovation. Of all explanations available, I like the one by Barack Obama the most, from an interview in Business Week 2007. Innovation is the creation of something that improves the way we live our lives. That sentence captures exactly why I love working with computer software so much, and innovation projects in particular. However, I also quite much enjoy the uncertainty of going where few people have gone before, so my definition would be a slight modification of Obama's sentence. Innovation is the creation of something unknown that has the potential to improve the way we live our lives. With this slightly modified description, a new online store is not an innovation, even if it improves people's lives. But creating a restaurant experience where the only way to order food is by building a Lego structure is. Let's get rolling. In August 2008, just a month after the App Store was launched, we got our first app request. A client wanted us to build a 3D multiplayer air combat simulator. The idea was simple. Using the accelerometer of the iPhone to control your airplane, you should hunt down your opponent and shoot down the airplane using bullets and homing missiles. We worked with the client over a few weeks to decide on the complete feature set, adding a single player mode and features like particle effects and GeForce blackout when you push your plane too much. When we were done, we had the specifications of what looked like it could be a good game. The client had limited financial resources, so he could only pay for 10 weeks of development. After checking with my friends at the company if anyone would be willing to join this crazy challenge, I found Martin Landsjö and Bob Mimbe, and together we set out to design and develop the world's first 3D multiplayer air combat simulator for iPhone. After starting with development, it quickly became clear that we would need to spend lots of time setting up things like a 3D pipeline to get our models from Maya into a format that the iPhone could use. There were also several bugs in the PowerVR 3D chipset the iPhone used, so we had to find workarounds for these as well. Back then, there were no mobile game development platforms like Unity or Unreal, so we had to write everything from scratch. Writing an AI that could make enemy airplanes fly in a smart way based on a user-set difficulty level also had its challenges. We needed planes that could avoid both the player and crashing into other planes, while at the same time trying to get aim of the player to fire bullets or missiles. But we solved all these issues, and after 10 weeks and many long nights, we had the game ready and published on the App Store. During these months, however, the App Store had grown from 500 to 10,000 apps, and it was no longer enough to just publish a game for people to notice it. Companies started advertising for new games, and the competition was extremely tough. For several months, however, our game was the only 3D airplane fighter simulator available on the iPhone, and it got good reviews. My main takeaway from this project is that if we know beforehand of all the issues that would occur during development, we would probably never have accepted the delivery frame of 10 weeks, which means that we would not have gotten the project. So in this case, not knowing all the difficulties before embarking on the project was actually a good thing. Once the project was delivered, we now had an amazing reference to show, which meant that we got a large number of new app projects in 2009, since there were so few competitors with real apps to show. A few months after we finished Airfight, we were approached by the navigation company Apello. Apello had what they called real-time maps. So if you wanted to navigate from one location to another, the route was calculated in the backend and then downloaded to the device. This is more or less how Google Maps works today, but back in 2009 it was a game changer compared to TomTom navigators with maps that often were several years old. Apello had signed a deal with Telia to develop a navigation app for the iPhone, and with our reference from Airfight, they approached us if we could create the world's best navigation app for the iPhone. Of course we can. Having created Airfight in 10 weeks, then this should be a piece of cake. The main issue with writing a navigation system is that you need some pretty advanced graphics to show the 3D maps on screen. And there were no frameworks available for this. We would have to create our own 3D navigation rendering system from the ground up. Luckily, we had just hired a developer that previously worked as a 3D expert at Autodesk, and he told me he would fix it. This project also had a pretty tight deadline, where we were expected to develop the complete app in less than 3 months, but it would make an amazing reference, so we signed the deal. 3 months later, the app Telia Navigator was finished and published to the App Store. And for 3 years in a row, it was actually awarded the title Best in Test Car Navigator in the Swedish magazine PC för alla, and continued to get great reviews on the App Store. My main takeaway from this project is that anything is possible if you have a good team of friends that all have a passion for what they do. Our 3D developer had never written a navigation system before, and this was the first app for a new iPhone developer in the team. But it was such an amazing opportunity to work with something new and fun, so everyone gave it their all, which made it possible for us to deliver this project in such a short time frame. In 2010, we had developed quite many app projects, and I had also been giving lots of seminars on apps and app development. So in March 2010, we were approached with a unique challenge. An advertising agency called SAP had been in contact with Göteborg Symphony Orchestra and had this idea of a game where each phone played a specific instrument of the same tune. So if you have 10 or 20 people playing the game in the same room, it should sound like a complete orchestra playing together. But they had no clue on how to solve the synchronization problem. How do you get 20 iPhones to play music simultaneously so they all sound in sync? So they approached us. I actually came up with a solution during the first meeting with the client. It did not depend on network or Bluetooth communication. I was so certain that we could deliver the project based on this solution that we sold it as another fixed time delivery project. This was a requirement from the client for us to get the project. The solution was simple. One device would act as a conductor and send out a beep signal every 2 seconds. Before this beep, you would hear 3 clicks, so you know that the beep would come. Once the beep sounded, all other devices you have to tap on a big blue button. Each device then knew that it was exactly 2 seconds between each tap. So using a basic interpolation function, we could adjust each tap event by the user so they were all exactly 2 seconds apart. Then, 5 seconds after the last calculated tap point, music would start. And it should sound like all devices played back in perfect sync, at least the place where the conductor stood. As with the other projects, there were many things we did not consider before starting out. The game turned out to be a rock band type of game where you tap on 3 buttons on the display when notes approached. If you missed a note, an error sound would be heard. This meant we had to create a tool to create these 3 note lanes. We quickly wrapped up something up in .NET so we could see audio waveforms and then snap notes beneath it, including triplet and sustain notes. We also had to record 5 different audio tracks and add an online sign-in using a service called OpenFaint for online high scores. My main takeaway from this project is that you need to be brave to win the most exciting deals. If we did not guarantee that this algorithm would work, then we would never have gotten the project. But since I guaranteed that it would work, we got to build one of the coolest app project store projects that year. Right after we pushed out the Street Orchestra to the App Store and social media channels, we were approached by Volvo Trucks. They were about to launch their new FH16 750 truck series and wanted us to create something fun to celebrate the launch. That was basically the pitch. We want something fun, some kind of game that truckers could play while waiting in the cab. For the other projects, we at least had a vague idea on where to go, but this time it was a bit too loose to give any kind of estimate. So we asked the client for a 10-week design phase with the aim of creating a new type of game for the iPhone that hopefully would be fun too. Over these 10 weeks, we focused a lot on touch-enabled kids devices and played many games on the App Store. In the end, we ended up with a concept where the truck drives by itself and there are several obstacles appearing in the road. And to remove an obstacle, you need to perform a specific type of gesture to remove it, like a circle, a C, or a slow swipe. This concept took pieces from many different but similar games and packaged it into a new type of experience. As usual, we had to give an estimated number of hours and the delivery date. This project was much bigger than our previous games, but we figured that 3 months would be enough from start to finish. To deliver the project, we had the same developers we worked with on Televa Navigator. We also had 2 of my best friends at the company, Nick Sakelario and Johan Brandstedt, who worked as creative lead and art director. For level design, we contacted friends who had worked previously on the racing game Race Pro, and for 3D characters, we contacted Michael Persson, who had previously worked as character animator on titles such as Assassin's Creed. Creating a game of this magnitude proved to be quite difficult. To make the game interesting enough, we created 8 long and detailed levels, filled with different obstacles. We also created 3 variations of each level, so a player could replay the levels at a higher difficulty level once completed. We also added achievements and an online competition, so players could compete against each other. And we tweaked and tweaked the various settings so it felt right when you played it. Instead of launching in April 2011 as expected, we had to put the game project on pause and basically had to guarantee that the final delivery would be amazing if we could only get more time and money for the delivery. After some discussions, we came to an agreement and the final game was launched in November 2011, including an online competition. The game quickly became a hit, especially since Volvo Trucks included amazing prizes in the online competition. Every week, the best player was rewarded an iPhone case, and every month, the best player was awarded a real Volvo Trucks branded leather jacket. And truck drivers played like crazy and got scores we didn't think was possible. My takeaway here is that creating projects like this is all about trust and relationship. We, the developers and creatives, had meetings directly with the client where we would guarantee that the end results would be great if we could just get more time and money to finish. I would argue that in most cases it's not enough with sending out just a salesperson or project leader to discuss budget changes with the client. You always need to involve the people doing the actual work in the discussion to put weight on exactly why things take time. This is what creates real trust. The end result really did turn out great, and the game had almost all 5-star ratings until it was removed from the App Store and Google Play nearly 10 years later. A local company, Stylt Trampolin, had been in discussions with Lego to create a new restaurant for the upcoming adventure place Lego House. Lego House was launched in 2017 and is an experience center with 25 million Lego bricks to play with. Stylt approached us since Lego had mentioned that they wanted a complete unique restaurant in Lego House. They wanted something people talked about, maybe even something that would make families come to visit the Lego house. Stilt came to us to discuss if this was something we could help them with, and this sounded like just the kind of challenge for us. We based the team around the same people we used in the Volvo Trucks game and added some extra creatives, architects and developers into the mix to get rolling. Our team also had several amazing Lego employees who helped us with much of the creative work. After a few initial ideas, we ended up with the concept that all food was cooked and prepared by Lego figures, and that you needed some way to communicate with them since they didn't understand English. We landed on the idea of building Lego figures representing the food you wanted, so where each brick had a specific meaning, such as green for vegetables, red for meat, and blue for carbohydrates. We, Stilt and Lego liked the idea, so we went on to try lots of different approaches on how to realize it. After many iterations, we ended up with the iPad oven. An iPad was placed on each table, and after building your Lego figure representing the food you wanted, you inserted the brick into the oven to identify your food. Once the order was done, the iPad would show an animation on the display to let you know that things were in progress. And once the food was done, the iPad woke to life again, showing an animation where the food was being put in a box and put on a conveyor belt. As soon as the box appeared in the opening in the wall in the animation, the actual box appeared on a real conveyor belt in the room before the box was delivered by robots. The final version of the iPad oven was built by Lego, where we created all the rest. If I were to name all the challenges in this project and how we solved them, I could probably go on for at least an hour, just talking about this project. But my key takeaway with this project is again to have very passionate people on the team that you trust will always deliver world-class results. At this point, we had a team who all had delivered several of these nearly impossible projects, which made most new projects feel approachable. We also never really knew if the concept we had developed would work in practice. It wasn't until we ran the first real-life test when we know for sure that this would be a hit. We had to trust our instincts and our experience, and we had to trust each other to deliver great things. In 2016, we got approached by Yamaha Europe, who had heard that we were good at creating mobile apps. Yamaha had this idea of a motorcycle app that would work similarly to Runkeeper. You go out on a ride and record where you go, and you can then later share your ride to other bikers so they can experience the same route. Since Yamaha also had a strong racing focus, they put in the requirement that the app should be able to calculate the maximum linear angle during the ride. Sure, I thought, how hard could that be? Most phones today have a gyroscope and accelerometer, so it should be a piece of cake. So the deal was signed and development was started. In practice, however, it wasn't really that easy. After mounting a phone with a software that recorded the accelerometer and gyroscope on a real motorcycle, it quickly became apparent that the sensors in the phone were not designed for the massive vibrations a motorcycle causes. When mounted on the bike, the vibrations were so heavy that no matter how much we tried to clean the data, we found no way to get something out of it that even resembled the leaning angle. The sensors were simply too sensitive. When we told this to Yamaha, they let us know that we need to find another solution, and that the solution should also work when the phone is placed loose in the inner pocket of the driver. We had many meetings where we tried to skip the feature, but it was deemed so important that Yamaha kept pushing for it. After several investigations, I actually came up with a solution that worked well and is within 5% accuracy of using a real speed angle lean angle sensor. While I cannot go into details on how we did it, the final solution is actually quite complex. It's a mixture of several different technologies, a bit of machine learning and lots of manual tweaking to get it to a place where we finally was happy with it. The way it works now is almost like magic. You can drive anywhere and keep your phone anywhere, and it calculates your leaning angle with the accuracy down to 5%. My takeaway from this product is that sometimes you need to take risks, and you need some way to deal with the fallback if you cannot deliver what you promised. In my case, I always had the vice president of our company, Patrick Salsten, at my side in all my projects to back me up in case the project didn't turn out as expected. With a background as IT architect, Patrick was always engaged on a deep technical level in most of my projects, while at the same time working as head of sales and vice president. Patrick is maybe the most important success factor in all the projects I've worked with. He knows how to ask the difficult questions to both us developers as well as the client to prevent things from going wrong. And he could always fix things right if things went out of hand. The final product I want to mention is called the Perfect Hammer Blow for Hultafors. After having developed a service called Battery Box for the Swedish company Husqvarna, where I built the entire iPhone app, Hultafors contacted us and asked us to create a new digital service that they could show on the Nordbygg conference. Hultafors' primary business is to sell tools for professional craftsmen like folding rules and hammers. When discussing what the biggest pain point is for craftsmen with friends and colleagues, it quickly turned out that injuries are a major issue, even in younger craftsmen. So maybe we could create a digital hammer that not only works exactly like a regular hammer, but it also tells you if you hit in the wrong way to prevent accidents. When looking for inspiration, I quickly found out that golfers had some pretty advanced tools to measure the swing. Tools like Garmin TrueSwing measure the forces during the entire swing and tells you if you're doing it the wrong way. Also, games like Wii Fit Golf are pretty good at showing how you hit the golf club. So this is where our idea started. What I did was equip hammers with specialized heavy-duty accelerometers that recorded data 3,200 times per second, and we could then measure the total force on the hammer during a blow. We then measured the total force required to hammer down a nail, including reflections from the surface, and we can then show that on the display. To get the baseline for what was good or not, we performed several studies with experienced craftsmen who just hammered away using our connected hammer, and before each test we also measured the grip strength. So, what did we find after testing our connected hammer on dozens of different craftsmen? Well, it was not so much about how you hit with the hammer, but how strong you are. The stronger the craftsman, the less risk for injuries. The more muscles you have, the stronger you can push the nail and the smaller the vibrations will be. So, there was really no need to develop a digital hammer. People just needed to work out more to prevent injuries in their work. My main takeaway from this project is that you should never go by CV when assembling your team, but with passion. In this case, we needed a Raspberry Pi device to connect with the custom accelerometers we purchased. So we needed someone who could develop an advanced real-time system for this that could also forward the sensor data to a PC we used to show the graphics. The job was done by Michaela Skeppstedt, who did not have anything like that in her CV. But I knew her, and I know she liked tinkering with Linux and Raspberry Pi devices in her spare time, and I know she was a very skilled developer. The solution she created works flawlessly, and I'm still amazed that she put it all together in such a short amount of time with no bugs. We couldn't have gotten a better person for the job, even if she did not have anything like that in her CV. To summarize, the 5 lessons I have talked about in this presentation are: first, you need to stay brave and foolish to get the best products. Can you deliver a multiplayer 3D airplane fighter simulator for the new iPhone in 2 months? Yeah, let's do it. Can you deliver a great car navigator for the iPhone in 3 months? Yeah, of course. Can you measure leaning angle of a motorcycle while the phone is loose in the inner pocket? Sure. To get the most exciting projects, you need to be brave and sometimes go where no one else has gone before. It's easy to become safe when you get older. Try not to. Try to stay foolish, embrace the impossible projects, and go where no one has gone before. Those are the projects you will be most proud of. Second, you need a team with a strong passion for what they do. Don't judge a person by the CV. Talk to them, see what they enjoy doing. To deliver great results, you need great people that are truly passionate about the work. I think the worst thing you can do is allow a sales team to assemble a random group of people just going by the CV, or outsource all their software development to an offsite location with no connection to the client or the rest of the team. You need a well-oiled team with passion that trusts each other, preferably people that have previously delivered nearly impossible projects together. This is how we deliver great projects in record time, every time. Third, you need customer trust. Trust is not a salesperson presenting sales figures and showing several years old projects developed by people who have long since quit the company. Trust is when the client and team work together against a shared goal and try to do the best of every situation that happens. Trust is when the team tells the client that they believe with all their heart that the final delivery will be amazing, and this project will be the most fun they have ever had in their lives. In all projects I have worked with, I have always been part of the selling process, and I have always been able to tell the client that I believe that this will be an amazing project. This motivates both me and the client to do great work together. Fourth, you need to have ways to mitigate risks. There is always a risk that the project does not meet time and budget constraints. In my experience, all projects need two things to handle situations where things do not go expected. First, each project needs a steering group committee with people who can invest more money into the project if needed. This is extremely important. You cannot have a steering group with only project managers. You need decision makers that can meet regularly with the team to discuss progress. Most of the projects I know of that failed really bad did not have this set up. Most successful projects did. Secondly, you need salespeople in the project with technical skills that can ask the right questions to avoid potential issues, and those same people need to keep up to date continuously with the project. In my case, it was the Vice President Patrick Salsten who was always by my side asking the difficult questions, which avoided more issues than I probably ever will know. Fifth, you need continuity. If you're a consultancy company, no one really cares what you did 4 years ago. The people involved in those projects might not be working at the company anymore, or they are locked into other assignments somewhere else. You need a team of core people, a creative director, an art director, a technical specialist like me, a communication expert, and a technical salesperson who can show projects they have worked on the past 2 years and who will be the same ones going into the new project you're selling. This kind of continuity is what made us build trust, sell and deliver all these amazing mobile projects, since we more or less had the same people involved in all of them, some way or the other. If you're working as a sales manager at a large company, you might wonder why you should even bother with this kind of projects. They are high risk and often low profitability, so it's easy to just give them a pass and hand them over to smaller companies. A project that is finished in 2 or 3 months' time might even cost more than it earns, just due to the work involved in freeing the required resources for it. There are 3 main reasons you should do these kind of projects. The first one is that some crazy people, like myself, need these kind of projects to really enjoy work. Maybe not all the time, but as my friend Nick once told me, if I can get to be a part of one amazing project like this every year, I'm more than happy. Believe it or not, but there are several people out there who live to solve the impossible. People who enjoy life the most when they are working on something no one knows what it will be when it's finished. Those are the kind of people you want to bring with you to a client to discuss a new innovation. And those are the kind of people you want to put on stage for presentations. Without these kind of projects, you will not have people like this in your organization. They will move on to some of those who dare. The second reason is references. Even if innovation projects, like the ones I have mentioned, are not even a percentage of the total projects done at the company, these are the projects that give an image of a creative and innovative company that is used to thinking out of the box. This is what makes people talk about your company, and this is another reason why it's so important to sell these kind of projects. The final reason is culture. In many companies, it is difficult to find a career path other than going from developer to manager. By delivering this kind of crazy innovation projects, you have a clear career path for those who want to do more, like people like Michaela, who worked with .NET backend development but had potential to do so much more. This kind of projects also has an extremely positive effect on a company culture. If you're working in a company that can deliver projects that many said was impossible, this makes it feel like you can accomplish anything, and that has a tendency to affect everything within the company. These are the 3 reasons why I believe innovation projects should be a central part of every company in one way or the other. Now, think about how many possible projects your company has delivered the past 2 years. 1, 2, 0? If it's 0 projects, then maybe it's time for you to be a bit more brave and foolish, because the exciting projects are out there. They are just being delivered by someone else. That was all from me today, and as always, I hope you learned something. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thanks, and bye for now.